Well, Elizabeth Warren has announced she's running for president, or at least she's exploring running for president, which, functionally is the same thing as saying, yes, I'm running for president. MSNBC this morning, I wasn't channel surfing, and we just had it on MSNBC while we were getting up and getting dressed. And their way of covering it was showing a clip of Elizabeth Warren getting beer out of the refrigerator and speculating about whether she's enough of a Joe Six-Pack. Isn't that brilliant? Of course, it being one of the cable TV networks, we can't talk about issues. So we got to talk about whether she drinks beer. Michael Steele on MSNBC pointed out that, she has already been proven on a national stage. She has taken national hits and has bounced back. So, my question to you is, do you think that Elizabeth Warren has what it takes to become president of the United States? I'm very excited personally by her announcement. I have long been a huge Elizabeth Warren fan. Her candidacy, probably more than anybody else's, has a chance. Well, not just a chance. I think it's a certainty that Bernie's going to run too. So she and Bernie are going to be slugging it out for the left end of the spectrum. In the middle, among kind of the more corporate Democrats, you'll have Kamala Harris, Cory Booker, Beto O'Rourke. We'll see who else. Joe Biden. Although I think you could almost put Joe Biden in more of the conservative category of Democrats. But it's an interesting one. This is the really the first time since 1976 when Jimmy Carter ran for president. This is the first time since 1976, and arguably in a big way the first time since 1968 that 64, that America, when LBJ was running for president after Kennedy was killed. This is the first time that Americans have had an opportunity to actually vote for a real progressive for president. Bill Clinton and Barack Obama, good guys. They did a lot of good things, but they were very much middle-of-the-road Democrats. And, just kind of fine with corporate America, basically running things and everything else. And Elizabeth Warren is a genuine progressive. I've got some clips here of her opening announcement. And this is she released a 4-minute video, and Nate has chopped it into 3 little pieces here to share with you. This first one, 39-second clip, this is kind of at the beginning of it, where she lays out the foundation for her run.
If you work hard and play by the rules, you ought to be able to take care of yourself and the people you love. That's a fundamental promise of America. A promise that should be true for everyone. Growing up in Oklahoma, that promise came through for me and my family. After my older brothers joined the military and I was still just a kid, my daddy had a heart attack and couldn't work. My mom found a minimum wage job at Sears, and that job saved our house and our family. My daddy ended up as a janitor, but he raised a daughter who got to be a public school teacher, a law professor, and a senator. We got a real opportunity to build something.
So number one, she's like America, basically, or at least many Americans. In other words, came out of a blue-collar working class background. The prosperity of the 1950s, 60s, 70s allowed for her to get a decent education, a decent job, end up a professor at wherever she was a professor, and on it goes like that. Then she gets into where we're at right now, the American nightmare, essentially, and America's middle class under attack. This is from the kind of the middle part of her opening, her 4-minute video declaring the possibility of her candidacy.
America's middle class is under attack. Billionaires and big corporations decided they wanted more of the pie, and they enlisted politicians to cut them a fatter slice. They crippled unions so no one could stop them.
We're going to turn the bull loose.
Dismantled the financial rules meant to keep us safe after the Great Depression, and cut their own taxes so they paid less than their secretaries and janitors. Corruption is poisoning our democracy. Politicians look the other way while big insurance companies deny patients life-saving coverage, while big banks rip off consumers, and while big oil companies destroy this planet. Our government's supposed to work for all of us, but instead, it has become a tool for the wealthy and well-connected.
Now, that is the clip that you would think that a cable news network would want to run to say, yeah, you know, they destroyed the unions, they went after the average working person, but no, the networks have no interest in talking about issues. I guarantee you there will be no discussion of issues as we go into this campaign, just as there was no discussion of issues in the 2018 campaign, just as there was no discussion of issues on the cable networks in the 2016 campaign, there won't be in this one. And that, I think, works to the disadvantage of genuine progressives like Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. Anyhow, we'll see how this shakes out. But that's the clip that should have been on every television screen in America and never will be, in all probability. Here's the end part of Elizabeth Warren's vision for the future. And again, my question to you is do you think, A, that she has a good chance, to win the Democratic nomination? And B, if she does she have a good chance to beat, I'm guessing it's going to be Mike Pence. I'm guessing that Donald Trump is going to bow out, but we'll see, Trump or Pence in 2020. And also, who do you think, if she is the nominee, she should pick as her running mate? Anyhow, here's her closing pitch. And again, this is something that the networks, I think, in my opinion, frankly, would never play. Here it is.
We can make our democracy work for all of us. We can make our economy work for all of us. We can rebuild America's middle class, but this time we gotta build it for everyone. No matter where you live in America, and no matter where your family came from in the world, you deserve a path to opportunity, because no matter what our differences, most of us want the same thing: to be able to work hard, play by the same set of rules, and take care of the people we love. That's the America I'm fighting for. And that's why today I'm launching an exploratory committee for president. But the outcome of this election will depend on you. If we organize together, if we fight together, if we persist together, we can win. We can, and we will. We can make...
Oh, I'm sorry. That was it? Okay. Meanwhile, the marketplace, as it were, is just handing arguments to Elizabeth Warren. Today, the Wall Street Journal reports that more than 36 drug makers raised the prices of hundreds of medications in the U.S. on Tuesday, most of them on generics. Most of the generic companies, generic drugs are supposed to compete with brand name drugs because it's the same drug, only it's, at a lower price. Well, the big brand name companies have been buying up all the generic companies and then jacking the prices up. So they're essentially competing with themselves. So, this is the kind of stuff that Elizabeth Warren is all about. The New York Times today, Ashted, Herndon, and Alexander Burns noting, this was actually yesterday, day before yesterday, noting that Elizabeth Warren is heading to Iowa. This next week, she's going to be in Des Moines, Council Bluffs, Storm City, and Sioux Falls. Iowa, of course, has the first in the nation Democratic caucuses in February of next year. So we're 13 months out from the caucuses. But this is the note that they make, and I think it's a really important one. The party has no single leader, the Democratic Party, no obvious front runner. Now, I would argue that Bernie is the obvious front runner. I know that others would argue that Joe Biden is the obvious front runner. I think, both of them are fairly obvious front runners, but, because Bernie nearly took down Hillary Clinton, and Joe Biden was vice president for 8 years and has run for president like I don't know how many times. Anyhow, they continue. There is no broadly unifying ideology, and I think that's the key to the whole thing. This is the moment when the Democratic Party decides whether it's a party that is progressive or whether it's just another political party in the bag, in the pockets of billionaires and big corporations. And they note that the Democratic Party has no broadly unifying ideology as it moves away from a quarter century of dominance by the Clintons and Barack Obama. who, you know, essentially have become modern day royalty and very, very wealthy based on having been in the presidency and you know, all this kind of stuff. So, you know, where is this going to go? How do you think this is going to shake out? And you know, what happens next? I also want to talk about Mitt Romney and Donald Trump in just a minute. I'll give you a little rant on that when we come back, and then we'll pick up your phone calls and you know, just get into these issues. Where is the Democratic Party at right now? Which direction is the party going? Who's going to be the standard bearer for the party? And what are really the essential credentials in this you know, era of inclusion for a candidate for president?